Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and I've got a really fun video for you guys today. So lately I've been getting a lot of questions from very young viewers, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. And one of the biggest questions I've been getting is, what advice would I give them? So it got me to thinking, what advice would I give myself when I was 13 or 14 years old? So I'm 33 now. And it dawned on me today that I'm 20 years past 13 years old. And it's funny for me because I can vividly remember the thoughts and the ideas and the emotions and the feelings that I had when I was 13 years old. It was confusion, it was frustrating, it was excitement, it was anger, it was embarrassment. There were so many emotions when I was 13. And I really believe that that's probably one of the most confusing times in your life. So if you are 13, 14, 15 years old, I'm making this video for you guys. And I'm also going to give advice that pretty much anybody can really use in their lifestyle. So let's get into it. So this very first one, we're going to go straight to it, okay? Wear condoms and masturbate more. So for me personally, when I was 13 or 14, I was already having sex. I had started having sex, in my opinion, way too soon in my life. I grew up in an environment, a highly sexualized environment, where my uncles were having sex, so they were telling me about it. Some of my friends were already having sex. It was just a hyper sexualized environment. Back then, it was normal to me. But now that I'm older, I realize how hyper sexualized the environment I came from was, and how I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't taught anything. I didn't learn. I never had sex education, even in health class. And this is in the 1990s. So we were barely getting taught how to use a condom. So, and here for those of you who aren't from the U.S., probably one of the biggest issues that we have facing young kids in the United States is a lack of sexual education. We had for decades under Reagan, this whole abstinence-only education. It doesn't work, okay? And for any adult who has kids who's listening to this video, abstinence-only education does not work. We're gonna fuck. Kids are gonna have sex. It's just the reality of it. So teach kids how to stay safe and how to take care of their bodies and what to expect. So that way, at least when they do have sex, they don't know what the hell is going on, and they can protect themselves, and they can prevent themselves from making some mistakes like I did, like so many from my background did. So the very first thing, very first piece of advice I would give myself is to use condoms if I'm going to have sex, and to masturbate more. Sex really isn't, it's great, it's fun, don't get me wrong, but it's something that you can wait for. The second thing I would tell myself is to take school a little more seriously. And this might sound a little bit arrogant, but I was just too smart for school back then. It was my issue with school in middle school and high school was it was just too damn easy for me. And I don't think I'm the only person who felt that way, especially going to low-income inner-city schools. Some people are just high achievers. I grasp concepts quickly, and it's still that way. I pick up things very quickly, but school is so slow. The problem with public schools is they have to dumb everything down to the lowest common denominator. And I don't mean that to be disparaging to the people who couldn't keep up or who had a lot of trouble in school. The problem is that they can't teach. They don't have the time or the resources to teach the higher level students. So everything gets lowered down. So you have these extremely intelligent kids who are stuck in classes, in essentially remedial level classes where they shouldn't be, and they're not being cultivated and not given the tools to succeed. So I would tell myself to find alternative means of education. Here, 20 years later, you guys have the internet, you guys have courseworks. I know Harvard, MIT, they put a lot of their stuff online now for free. But back 20 years ago, we didn't have that. So I'm not really sure what I would tell myself, 20 years in the past. Oh man, that's really a tough one. But I would definitely tell myself to take school a little more seriously, because had I taken school a little more seriously, it would have opened so many more doors for me when I found myself in a position to either go to college on a scholarship or to join the military. Which, as you guys know, I ended up joining the military for 10 years. So yeah, I would have taken school more seriously. So this next was a little hard for me. I would tell myself, don't hate your parents. When I was growing up, I absolutely hated my parents, my mother and my father. You know, and I think I might do a video on this later. I actually might do one with my mom if she's down. But it's difficult because my mother had me at 13. My parents were very, very young when they had me. So, and a lot of people don't understand this, that within the African American and Latino communities, essentially, or any low income community, you know, I know it's the same with Asians and whites as well. Low income communities, we tend to have children extremely young. And that was a problem. Because you gotta imagine, my parents are 13, 14-year-old. I was raised by my mom, my mother, and my grandmother. And you know, what does a 13, 14-year-old know about raising a child? So if you think about it, by the time I was 13, my mother was in her mid-20s. So my mother still wanted to go to clubs and wanted to go party and go kick it. You gotta remember, a lot of times our parents don't know how to be parents yet. They aren't taught how to be parents. There were, especially in where I grew up, there's no courses or classes that you can take to learn how to raise a child. So I would tell myself not to hate my parents. Again, but at 13, I probably couldn't understand. And this is 20 years in the future that I'm understanding the difficulty that raising a child is, especially when you're a child yourself, when you have absolutely no idea how to be a parent. So yeah, guys, any of you guys who are 13, 14 years old, I know sometimes you get mad at your parents, you're frustrated at your parents, but understand that a lot of times they're doing what they feel is best for you. And sometimes that's not going to make you feel too good, but in the long run, it might be what you need. So the next thing I would tell myself is that you're not ugly. And this is a real thing for me, man, because people tell me that, oh, Erick, you're so confident, and where do you find the confidence? Man, I find the confidence because people used to tell me I was ugly all the time. Like, the entire time growing up, like I had, my nose was too big. They used to call me pussy lips. This was so I grew up in Cleveland, and we were taken into foster care. And my foster family was in a city called Canton. You guys may know Canton. Canton is the sister city of Akron, where LeBron James grew up and played basketball. So I moved to Canton from all black school to a mixed school, black kids and white kids. So I was one of the more, I don't know, ethnic kids, I guess, and my lips were big. So I had big, these sexy lips. I had these when I was 13. And all the boys used to call me pussy lips because all the girls liked me. So it messed up my confidence when I was growing up, 13, 14 years old. I was always a kind of an extroverted kind of person, an energetic, kind of life of the party guy. But I still had those self-esteem issues growing up because even my mother would call me ugly. My mother was... And you know, we've talked about this and we've gone through it, so I don't think I'm bashing my mother, but my mother was an asshole when I was growing up. You know, she would call me ugly, and you know, nobody's ever gonna love me. I mean, yeah, but if I can go back and tell myself to kind of, you know, like, don't worry about it, you're gonna grow into your lips and you'll be okay in the long run, then I definitely would. And anybody who's having these body issues, beauty is relative and in the eye of the beholder, man. There's somebody out there who thinks you're beautiful, and it doesn't matter if there's not somebody who thinks you're beautiful. Be happy with who you are, what you have, because that's you. You know, that's what makes you you. So yeah, that's my advice to you guys and to myself. So the next thing is stay creative. I would tell myself to stay creative and to learn an art form of something, some form of expression. One of my biggest issues growing up was I barely had any real outlets for creativity. which is where photography comes in. You know, photography saved my life. I've been shooting for about 20 years. I'll always consider myself a photographer because it's the art that I know best. It's the one I put more time into learning and cultivating. And I wish that back then at 13, I would have picked up an instrument. Like, I always wanted to play piano, but I didn't have access to pianos growing up where I grew up. The only place that you could find pianos was really at the church, and I wasn't really a church guy back then. So obviously I couldn't do that, but I found the camera, and yeah, the photography is my life. I absolutely love it. But I would definitely recommend any of you guys who are watching this, who are 13, 14, 15 years old, to find an art, even if you suck at it now, and you probably will, and cultivate that, because 10 years from now, when you're 23, 24, 25, you have 10 years of practice and training, and you are going to be amazing. I can promise you that if you practice something for 10 years, that you are absolutely going to be great at it. If you practice something for 20 years, like I'm 33 now, so 20 years, you're going to be brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So find a creative outlet, an art, be it writing, be it photography, be it videography, be it skateboarding, be it graffiti, be it hair braiding, whatever you want to do, find your creative outlet. So this next thing is something that I still have issues with as an adult also. I would tell myself to follow through on my ideas. Growing up, I had so many ideas, so many stories, so many fantasies, and I remember I would write these characters. See, the way my brain works as a writer is that I picture characters, and I'll sketch out who this character is, what their backstory is, what their personality is like, what motivates them, and I will plug that into things. I will plug that into a narrative of some sort, where this character is just a piece of a larger thing. I can never sit down and just write things out. So I had notebooks full of characters, not any particular story, but characters or cool situations or action sequences, and poof, they're all gone. They just, you know, I would lose the notebooks, or my little sisters would draw them with the crayons, or for whatever reason they would disappear. And here's something you guys need to realize about life. Everybody has amazing ideas. Everybody has the next great Star Wars franchise, or everybody has the great next iPhone or a great next app. Ideas are great. Execution is what matters. Nobody gives a damn about your ideas unless they're going to steal it. But execution is what matters. People want to see you do something. Life rewards those who actually get out there and try something and do something. If you want to write the next great Star Wars story, okay, write it. Don't talk about it. Don't pitch it. Write the damn story. And I think that's something that a lot of people, especially adults at this point, have a lot of trouble with. Everybody's got ideas. So execute on the things that you want to execute on. So I would also give myself this piece of advice: to make physical fitness and health a routine part of my lifestyle. It wasn't until I joined the military that it really became a routine part of my lifestyle, and then I lost it again when I left the military because I wasn't being forced. And only within the past couple of years I made it a part of my lifestyle again. If you at 13, 14, or 15, or even now if you're 45, you know, right now, make physical fitness and health a part of your life, simply because it makes everything else better. It makes you more creative, it gives you more energy, it makes you look better, which builds your confidence. It allows you to be able to accomplish things that so many people can't because they aren't physically capable of doing it. And I'm not saying become a triathlete. What I'm saying is watch what you eat. Like, you don't need to eat a bucket of chicken every other day. You don't need to eat all these garbage processed foods if you can afford not to. You can walk, you can run, you can go to the gym. You can do so many things to ensure that you're healthy inside and out. And that's definitely one of the biggest things I would have told myself when I was a lot younger. Now this next one is going to be really hard for a 13-year-old Erick to even contemplate. But don't worry about what people think of you, and surround yourself with people who are better than you. I know it's difficult at 13, 14, 15 years old, because it is difficult at 30 to not give a damn what people think about you. But here's the truth, and here's something that you're going to learn the older you get, is that for every person that likes you and loves everything about you, there's somebody who hates you and hates everything about you. That is the reality of life. You cannot please everybody, and you will just absolutely run yourself crazy trying to. The reality is, the opinion of a lot of people, 99.9% of people, does not matter at all. But what matters is surrounding yourself with people who are going to make you the better and the best version of yourself. So be the best version of Erick that you can be. The best version of Michael or Michelle or Steve or Dave or Kimberly or Tiffany. Be the best version of yourself, because in the end, you have to live with you. And if you can't look at yourself in the mirror and be happy with who you see, what you're accomplishing, what you're trying to do, then what's the point? Absolutely nothing, okay? So really push yourself to be the best version of you and be damned what everybody else thinks. So the last thing is, it's a little complicated. I would tell myself to don't allow people who've given up on their dreams to stop you from pursuing your dreams. Now, I believe in a thing called passion and practicality balance. So a lot of times those in our lives who try to discourage us from pursuing our goals and our dreams because they haven't achieved theirs or they failed at it, is because they feel that the practical route is the best route. To go to college, get a good job, work for 30 years, retire, raise a family, have a white picket fence, and do all that corny shit. Not corny, I'm sorry, not corny, different. That's the way that a lot of people choose to live their lives. That's perfectly fine, that's perfectly okay. But they have to respect that that might not be how you choose to live your life. That's the practical route. That's the smart route. Now, on the opposite side is the passion route, where you pursue something that you love, something you're passionate about. You might want to be a duck wrangler. You might want to be a ballerina. You might want to be a pianist. You might want to be a photographer or a videographer or a skateboarder or a basketball player or a singer. That's the passion route. Unfortunately, a lot of times the passion route doesn't pay very well, is not very stable. So you have to find a way to balance the two, okay? It's difficult. I personally, I think I'm doing pretty okay for myself, but I still don't have the balance that I want. I still don't make as much money as I would like to following my passion. But I'm happy. So it's a balancing act sometimes. It'll always be 51-49 no matter what. All right, sometimes you're going to lean on the practical side of things, and sometimes you're going to lean on the passion side of things. But what you cannot do, and I cannot stress this last point enough, you cannot go the practical route and get rid of the passion route. And you cannot go with the passion route and get rid of the practical route, because that is when you destroy yourself. By just going the practical route, sure, you may be financially stable, you may have a beautiful home and a beautiful family, but you're gonna lack passion. You're gonna be miserable. But if you go the passion route, just all passion, you're gonna find a lot of doors closing, a lot of opportunities going away. You're gonna find that you're hungry a lot. And you might not end up with a family that you really, really want. So this is probably my biggest advice to you, and all these other things that I said lead to this. Find a balance between what you're passionate about and the practicality of your life situation. All right, guys, that's all I've got for advice to 13-year-old Erick. This video really wasn't only about 13-year-old Eric or 13, 14, 15-year-old viewer or reader, but I think this is about everybody. And I think a lot of these tips can help people who are also older, because I meet so many people in life who still worry so much about what other people think, who don't take their health seriously, who don't follow their dreams, like who are absolutely miserable in the really, really nice six-figure jobs that they have. I think a lot of this advice is universal, and the earlier you adopt it in your lifestyle, the better it'll turn out to be. I'm not some life-changing guru of any sort, and I don't have it all figured out, but I think I've made a pretty decent life for myself, to the point where I can actually give you guys some advice on how I made it to this point in my life. So yeah, if you guys have any comments below, please go ahead and post them below. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And I want to leave you guys with this question. If you are one of my 13, 14, 15-year-old viewers or readers, what are some of the problems that you're having in your life that you want to know if it gets better? And if you're one of us older folk in our 30s and 40s and 50s, however much older you are, what advice would you give yourself at 13, 14, or 15 years old? So once again, try to leave the world better than you found it, and I'll see you guys next time.